Hey people, Nalin Savara here from Darks and Tech. I'm going to talk about our game Tank Shoot. So, whenever we post a trailer or a screenshot or share a demo with somebody, invariably there's somebody or the other who says, "Hey, it's a clone, it's a copy. What's the big deal if you made a clone of a game that was released in the 1980s?" So, uh, I think what the person is trying to say over there is that you have made a cheap and quick rip-off without spending your own time and energy to put together an original game. And I think that those are pretty strong allegations, and I would like to share with you about what it is about our game that we work pretty hard on, and why we think and see our game as our baby and our effort and as our original. So the first reason why anybody would say this is a clone is because of the look of the two of the player tanks. One is green and one is orange, and the thing about green and orange is that when we were making it the first time around, back in 2011, I literally flew down from Delhi to Bengaluru, and for 15-20 days I stayed there, working very closely with my friend and at that time colleague, a guy called Yadu Rajiv, who has taught as a professor at the Srishti School of Art, and who has a degree from NID Bangalore, that is the National Institute of Design. And we worked very hard for 10-15 days just trying to make sprites and get it together. At that time, we were working and developing that game for Nokia Asha phones and for Symbian OS devices. Now, the thing about Symbian OS devices was that the screens, most of the devices had screens that were either 320 by 240, or they were 240 by 320. And later devices had slightly larger screens, 640 by 480 and so on. But those screens were still pretty small, and so if we have a play area or a battleground that is 13 squares wide by 13 squares high, and then each square to fit into 240 pixels would have to be a maximum of 16 pixels, because 16 into 13 is 228. So we then have a buffer of around 12 pixels above and below divided. And so we made it with the proposed 16 into 16 sprite resolution, and that's in that resolution we realized that the number of options we had for distinguishing the colors of the two player tanks, of the bricks and of other things, were somewhat limited. And so even though we spent a lot of time figuring out the colors, designing and figuring out what the tanks will look like, we realized that the optimal colors were red for the bricks, and orangish shade for the player tank, and maybe green for the player tank, maybe a shade of light blue for the player tank. But orange and green work better than light blue or other shades for the player tank. And so we have player tanks that look somewhat similar to a older generation tank game. We have bricks which are red, and we saw that a grey background works best, and so we put that in. So those are the reasons for the similarity. You will be very pleased to know that our pathfinding code itself is around 15,700 lines. Took almost 6 months to develop that pathfinding code, and it's just something we are very, very proud of. That long before our tanks were finalized and designed and put together, I had worked for 6-7 months on the pathfinding code, which is what makes its artificial intelligence so interesting. That you have an enemy tank that's going to go through all sorts of obstacles without shooting any of the walls, and just it's just gonna reach the player tank unless the player is smarter and more strategic than him and manages to shoot the enemy before the enemy can shoot the player. So that those are the reasons why we think our game is original and deserves attention, and that's also like perhaps an answer to why certain elements and certain aspects of our game are similar to an older game. That because we developed it in for fairly low resolution phones initially, and even on the Android TV because it was a hack, and even on Steam initially it is just like a prototype that we loved playing by attaching two controllers to a PC. That it is the way it is. Maybe we will have different looking 3D rendered tanks. Maybe we'll have the same tanks. But for anybody to say that hey, this is a cheap ripoff or this is a quick and dirty ripoff is wrong, because we've already spent so much of time on it, and we worked very hard to make it just perfect. And so we request you, please wishlist our game on Steam. If it's been released, please buy it and download it. And even if not on Steam, you could search Tank Shoot on your Google Play on your mobile device, or Tank Shoot on your Android TV. And we invite you to download and play our game, and write down your review comments or send us an email telling us what you think of it. Your opinion matters, because ultimately it's for you who we've made the game, and we just love to hear from you. Thank you.